Okay, my chess friends, welcome to this video on open files. And you've probably heard of the very well-meaning piece of chess advice: put your rooks on open files. But like any other well-meaning piece of advice, it doesn't tell the whole story, because chess is far too dynamic a game for a simple adage like put your rooks on open files. Because there are many other dynamics involved in chess. So while it's a very well-meaning piece of advice, like we have said, it doesn't tell the whole story. And rooks operating on open files do not come on a first-come, first-served basis. And this little position here will demonstrate that for you. It's black to play, and he very dutifully takes up position on the open file with rook a to d8. Bishop to e3 is played, and now black must do something about his queenside pawn. He can either play a6 or b6. Let's take a look at a6 first. Problem with this is it allows the bishop into b6 to harass the rook that took up position on the open file. Trying to retain control of the open file, but white is able to contest it. If black tries to consolidate his position well, bishop to c5. Black takes, white takes, and white is in full control of the open file, despite the fact that black had access to it at first. Now, black must give up the 7th rank. If he tries to keep his rook on the 7th rank with something like rook to c5, well, he is just toast, because rook to d8, king must move, and the rook is lost. So this little scenario demonstrates how it is not a first-come, first-served basis for open files. We saw that black was first to the open file with rook a to d8, and yet white was able to wrestle control of the open file from him. Now why in fact did this happen? It's due to a number of factors. The activity of this bishop in comparison to this bishop. This bishop was able to enter black's position and harass the rooks by coming to b6 and to c5, where this bishop here had literally no influence in the game. And it's also due to the position of the kings. If you notice this king here, it is able to guard all of these entry points for the black rook. Whereas this king here, it does not influence the file in any tangible way. And this is really, really important with open files, because open files are only of any significant value if you can control and you can use that control to penetrate into your opponent's position. This black rook here has no penetration points into white's position. Cannot come here, cannot come here, cannot come here, cannot come here, and it cannot come here. So if you're going to chess friends take control of an open file, it will only be valuable to you if you can find a point of penetration, an entry point for either your rook or your queen or some minor piece. Otherwise the file is absolutely useless and you would be best served finding some other move rather than taking the open file. Let us just look at the position of the kings further, because I have another little example which highlights it in a most excellent way. So let's take a look at that. Okay, let us take a look at this because it very ably demonstrates the importance of the position of kings with regard to open files. And it begins in a Sicilian, and we'll just quickly go through these moves. Very well known, and we have g6 and we end up with our Maroczy bind with c4, knight f6, knight c3, knight takes knight, queen takes knight, d6, bishop g7, f3, castles, queen d2, bishop e6, rook c1, queen e5, knight d5, queens are exchanged, and here white plays the awesome king takes on d2. Why is this awesome? Well, because the c file will soon open up. You can see this is a very strong knight here. It threatens the e7 pawn. And bishop takes d5 is forced. If something like knight takes d5, well, the bishop is forced back and the rook will come to the penetration point on c7. And black is already facing some severe difficulties. So bishop takes is essentially forced. C takes and the c file has opened up. And if black tries to contest it, well, takes, and here is the key moment. g3. Wonderful move, seeking to bring this minor piece to h3 and knocking this rook on c8 from the c file. If something like, let's say a6, trying to save the pawn, well, bishop to h3, rook to c7, and white can successfully contest the control of the d file, and he is in fact threatening to win a pawn with something like, after taking here, bringing this bishop up here to c8. Something like, let's say, knight to d7, trying to bring the knight to the outpost. Bishop h3, rook c7, excellent bishop takes, and getting the pawn out of the way, and after rook to c1, white has full control of the c file. And this again is possible because of the position of the respective kings. You can see this king here, it guards the entry points for the black rook. This bishop here guards this square here, this bishop here guards this square here, this pawn guards this square here. The rook has absolutely no way to enter into the white position because of the activity of the minor pieces and the position of the white king. Okay, let's take a look at this chess game. It's played in 1974 and it's Andersson, Ulf Andersson with the white pieces versus Knaak with the black pieces. Begins knight f3, knight f6, and you will see how Ulf Andersson exploits a leading development to bring his rooks to the open files first. And because he has a penetration point on the 7th rank, he is able to exploit this. It's very, very instructive indeed. c4, b6, and we have the bishops fianchettoing against each other. c5, castles, double fianchetto, b3 is probably going to be quadruple fianchetto, bishop to g7, bishop to b2, black castles, knight c3, knight e4, and the queen comes to c2, knight takes, bishops are exchanged, and here black plays a very dubious move. He plays the move d5. Now you can see that he is behind in development. He has yet to develop his knight. He has yet to post his queen and connect his rooks, whereas white has posted the queen and he has already connected his rooks. A much better move for black would have been to try and keep the position closed with a move like d6. But instead, he elects to try and open the position with the dubious d5. And here Ulf Andersson plays excellent d4, aiming to simply open up the position himself. C takes d, queen takes d, d takes c, and queen takes on c4. And you can see that the c and the d file have now opened up. And because white is better developed, he is able to take advantage of this before black can get his development together. Black plays knight to c6 and the rook comes to the d file. Rook f to d1, menacing the queen on d8. And it's with some problems that this queen has finding a safe place. If she goes to, for example, c7, it looks safe enough, but it runs into the following. Knight to d4, hitting the pinned piece. You can see that the queen is unprotected. She tries to bolster the position with rook to c8. Bishop takes, and again piling up on the pinned piece. Rook f to d8, knight takes, and if rook takes on d1, you have this rook takes on d8, and if the queen takes, well, rook to d8, deflecting the rook on c8, which is looking after the queen, and ouch. Black is roasty toasty. So it's very dangerous for black to put the queen there on c8. In the game, he actually elected to play queen to e8 instead, probably because of this. And here Ulf Andersson plays an awesome move. Plays queen to f4, and you can see he is eyeing up the h6 square. He's eyeing up the penetration point here on the 7th rank. It's just a beautiful, beautiful move. Rook to c8, and doubling rooks on the d file. He realizes that there is a penetration point here on d7. And And he can probably use this to penetrate along the 7th rank. Trying to shore up the weakness here on h6. And the rooks double on the d file. Bishop to a8, finally threatening something like e5. But it's too little too late, because white has a very simple reply. Knight to e5, knight takes, queen takes check, f6 was played, and queen to e6, guarding the penetration point in black's position. Bishops were exchanged, but prior to that Ulf Andersson played the awesome rook to d7, simply threatening to win the black queen with queen takes on e7. Sorry, rook takes on e7. Well, black was forced to defend, rook to f7, and then the bishop was taken. But you can see how white has penetrated the black position because he was better developed, he was more able to bring his rooks to the open files first, but most important of all, he was able to guard the penetration point and infiltrate black's position with his rooks. And this is in stark contrast to the other positions that we have seen where one side was even though they had initial control of the open file, they were unable to penetrate because of either the king position or minor pieces. Rook c5 was tried, and rook takes a7. And I think at this point, black in fact resigned because his position is essentially hopeless. He's down material, and he has real no position for any type of counterplay. For example, if b5, e3, rook to e5, queen to b6, and rook d to d7, and this queen here will come, and white will be tripling up on the 7th rank. It's a very, very interesting game from Ulf Andersson, demonstrating how that a leading development can be utilized to take control of open files. So I hope you enjoyed this little lecture, chess friends. There are certain dynamics that you need to take into consideration when you are thinking of trying to occupy an open file. King position, the activity of minor pieces, and development. And there are certain criteria that you need to make sure that you have. An open file is only valuable if you can maintain a point of penetration so that you can infiltrate your opponent's positions and file your heavy pieces into it. Otherwise, it's essentially valueless. So thank you very, very much, my friends, for taking the time to watch this video, and I sincerely wish you well with your own chess. Take care, and goodbye.
Made it too far, became the special man, then we were Ziggy's band. Ziggy really sound, screwed up eyes and screwed on her nose. Some cat from Japan, he could become a smiling, he could even do hand. Come on, so loaded man, we're hanging Snow White down. So